All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for our December 12th Winchester Public School Board regular business meeting. Just a quick announcement. If anyone is missing their keys to, I think it's a Honda, we do have them up here. So please make sure that you check your personal belongings, and if you have your keys, we have them. All right, at that, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Virginov? Here. Ms. Crawford? Here. Mr. DeBenedetto? Here. Dr. Chris Gonzalez? Here. Ms. Chubin? Here. Mr. Wallace? Present. Ms. Emo?
Here. All right, thank you. That moves us to our belief statements and Pledge of Allegiance being led by our student representatives.
Every student has the right to an excellent education in a safe, experiential, and imaginative learning environment. Every student deserves equitable opportunities to learn, grow, lead, and serve. An intentional focus on future-ready skills and dispositions integrated with essential academic knowledge develops an empowered 21st century graduate. Mental, emotional, and physical health are essential conditions for optimal learning.
Collective efficacy and shared accountability are vital ingredients to a productive, empowered workforce. Winchester Public Schools must be learner-centered, agile, and courageous in modeling the power of public education across our Commonwealth, country, and world. A vibrant public education system positively impacts the social, economic, and civic well-being of Winchester. Embracing the diversity of our students, their families, and our community is a strength that unifies us. To achieve equity, we must clearly define and monitor the extent to which all learners and groups are empowered through access, diversity, and inclusion. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome, thank you. That moves us to item C under 1, Chairman's comments. I do not have any comments this evening, but I will open it up to Dr. Van Huykelen for any comments that he may have.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In light of a long, lengthy agenda tonight, I'll keep my comments short and simply say I wish everyone a wonderful holiday as we get ready to take a break here in a couple weeks. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Van Huykelen. Okay, at this time, I'll open it up to our school board for any comments. We'll start here, Mr. Wallace, Mr. Bismarck, Dr. Pierce-Gonzalez, Ms. Trubin, Ms. Crawford.
I'd just like to thank our teachers and our staff for a good year so far, and to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. And Mr. Di Benedetto. No, all right. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our student representatives for any comments or information that you'd like to put out. Thank you. Yes, please. Yeah.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Chair. For the month of December at Daniel Morgan Middle School, students participated in an amazing band performance last week, and next week they'll have their winter choir performance and a PBIS trip to the Alamo. At Corals Elementary School, they had a very special family coding night and book fair on December 6th with 78 students and 222 people in attendance. Their family coding night was sponsored by their metrics grant, and the Winchester Book Gallery hosted their book fair at school. Families gave lots of compliments. They have an upcoming Kiwanis Christmas party on the 14th, a choir performance on the 21st, and finally a holiday dance on the 22nd before the early release. Lots of exciting stuff coming up at Corals. At John Curl Elementary School, the week of December 5th through 9th was Computer Science ED Week. Students and teachers participated in several activities and decorated their doors to reflect the coding theme. On Thursday, December 8th, they ended their Computer Science ED Week with a family code night. Kindergarten and first graders went to the Alamo to watch the Polar Express. Many of the students have never been to the theater, so it was a great time for them. And finally, at Hanley, we hosted the Hanley Basketball Showcase this past weekend. 10 different teams participated in the tournament. Tonight, the girls' basketball team faces Skyline at home. And this past weekend, the track team had a successful meet at Liberty University. Elizabeth Emo, Emerson Worrell, and the girls' 4x2 team already qualified for the state meet. Attendance has been improving thanks to our weekly attendance challenge. Each grade competes against each other for the best attendance every week. As the semester comes to a close, students are focusing on end-of-the-year projects and exams.
Thank you, Olivia. Last Thursday at Frederick Douglass Elementary, they had an amazing turnout at their gingerbread story night. Students and families got to come and hear different versions of the gingerbread man story, decorate the cookies, and build gingerbread houses out of boxes, and about 350 people attended the event. At Daniel Morgan Intermediate, they had an art show and band performance last week and are now in the midst of the Grinchiest Teacher Contest, which is sponsored by the PTO. Their international night will be held this Wednesday from 5:30 to 7:30 at the school, and they will be having a chorus concert next week, reindeer games for the students, and continue Holiday Road for staff until the break. On December 1st, Virginia Avenue Charlotte DeHart Elementary will have its literacy night and about 125 people came to listen to a story about a gingerbread man. They also did a craft and built a house for the gingerbread man and had hot chocolate and cookies. The author of the story, Laura Murray, came to talk to pre-K through second grade students and got each student a signed copy to keep, thanks to SU, Dr. Huff, and the Claude Moore Fund. The December PTO meeting was held on the 5th, and third graders performed for the parents. And there was also a PBAS school reward on December 22nd for students where they got to choose an activity to participate in for part of the day. And they are grateful for the support of the division, families, and staff for the students. At Hanley, we're getting ready to celebrate our Holiday Spirit Week. This Friday, we will start with Winter Wonderland White Lies, wearing a white shirt with a little white lie about yourself. Monday will be 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, or PJ Day. Tuesday will be Jack Frost versus Heat Miser Day, where 9th and 10th graders will dress for the summer and 11th and 12th will dress for the winter. Wednesday will be Holiday Hat Day, and Thursday will be Ugly Holiday Sweater Day. And as this semester comes to a wrap, our seniors are starting to get their decisions for colleges, and I'm very excited for everyone's success and their plans. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you guys for those announcements. All right, that moves us to item 2 on our agenda this evening. We have recognitions. We will have Gorland Corals Elementary School, Ms. Hovatter. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm Joni, I'm the principal, and I've also brought Mr. Slezak, our assistant principal, with us, and we have something really special this evening. We really appreciate this opportunity to showcase, and we're using the acronym C, which stands, you will see what brings us joy, which are these beautiful children and their families, but you're going to see a sampling of educational excellence tonight, and we're proud of that because we know we have to deal with school improvement and the scores, but it's also very important to hear the stories of our children. So tonight, everything is connected to literacy, all right? And I think we're going to get started.
All right, first up, we're going to have Miss Lindsay Edwards and our Chameleon Choir featuring Rihanna, Edwin, Jackson, Abby, Avery, Yosimer, Jocelyn, Dermani, Helena, Cora, Justin, Abby, and EJ.
Good evening. We're excited to present to you this evening a selection from our program that will be performed next week. We have taken the book Blizzard by John Rocco and created a presentation through music. So we will tell the story and sing along next week for our presentation. Tonight we present to you one selection called Hot Chocolate.
Hot, 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 hot chocolate.
All right, and next up we have the lovely Miss Heather Campbell and her Campbell's Book Club, we refer to as CBC. Three of her students this evening, we have Kaya, Liam, and Brian.
Hi, my name is Heather Campbell. My students and I are part of the Campbell's Book Club at Corals Elementary School. One of the biggest parts of our club is free choice writing. We're here tonight to share some of our fabulous writing with you.
Hi, my name is Leo. I am 9 years old, and I wrote this book for me to hope that it would get published so that I could put this book into hospitals everywhere, because when I was in the hospital, I didn't know what was happening because the doctor told me that I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and they kind of just threw everything at us, so I wrote this book so that kids know what's coming. My book is called A Day in the Life of a Type 1 Diabetic. If you are a newly diagnosed type 1 diabetic, then I have a lot of tips for you. So first, you're going to have to expect a lot of shots. My least favorite part about diabetes is how bad you can feel when your blood sugar is too high or too low. It can make you feel bad.
Hi, my name is Kai Anderson, and I wrote this book, How to Cook a Type of Food called Ramen. It's written and illustrated by me, December 2nd, 2022. These directions are so easy that even Miss Campbell could do it. We all know that Miss Campbell can't cook. Step 1, get a bowl. Step 2, get a bag of ramen. Step 3, crunch up the ramen, crunch the bag and pour it into the bowl. Step 4, pour water over the noodles so all noodles are covered. Step 5, put the bowl of ramen in the microwave for 2 minutes. Step 6, after the 2 minutes, drain water, but be careful, it will be hot. Step 7, pour the powder in the bowl and stir. Step 8, enjoy.
Hello, I'm Brian, I'm Brian Vigil Cruz, and I wrote this book to my uncle that's coming to the United States, and it's called Welcome to the United States of America. Hello, how are you? How was the trip? Was it good or was it bad? I am happy that you're here in the United States.
And Brian wrote that in English and in Spanish so that his uncle could read that when he got here. So, thank you.
All right, and lastly, we have a 3-minute video presentation made by Miss Jenny Ramsey. Someone else has power. Thank you so much for that. This is the opportunity for some project-based learning where our students embedded some stuff with Jamestown, and some of them even created their own little video game through Google Slides.
And one thing I want to add is one of our students, all of the students in 4th grade got to pick the best in show. One of our students is here, and he will actually see his project-based learning embedded. James Hernandez, we're proud of you out of Ms. Bauer's class, so thank you.
One quick shout out to all the parents that made it out here. Thank you very much. And chameleons, it's a great day to be a chameleon.
Thank you all again, and we appreciate we have some teachers that are getting ready to get a reading master's. And I want to say, Mrs. Trubin, on behalf of the years that I've been here, I want to say thank you so very much for all of your dedicated service. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holbert. Before you guys sit down, I do want to have give the board an opportunity to ask any questions or comments for your team.
Absolutely. And can I have the car keys? I think they're mine.
Oh, are they really? Here you go. You're welcome. All right, good. Any questions or comments for Ms. Holbert and her team? Any? No? All right. Thank you so much. It was beautiful.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right, normally, you guys may know, we normally do our showcase along with our school report on the same night. Recently, we did change the order of that, so you will be seeing the Coral and Coral's school report later in another meeting. All right, moving on to item B, under 2, for recognitions, we have Erica Trubin's board service.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This evening, we get an opportunity to celebrate and say goodbye for this role, but I'm sure not for other roles, to Miss Erica Trubin. And I personally, as superintendent, want to say thank you for all the many years of dedicated service. You were the board chair that brought me and my family up here to Winchester, and certainly so you will always have a special part in our family's life, as it has been a foundational piece of our journey. You know, it's hard to think that 7 years ago we rolled into town and met at a Panera. And you said, I think we need to meet at this Panera before you get started. And I was like, oh boy, what do we got here? So, but I really appreciate all your service. And we've coined the phrase with Ms. Trubin, I think, on the board that many times we've borrowed courage from you. You've always been known to be uber ethical, wise, the one that looks at the details, reads the extra layers to make sure we're doing the right thing. And many times we look to you for that leadership and guidance. You will be deeply missed, and we wish you the best. And I know you have other things planned, and your beautiful family's here in front of us here. And but know that you only get about 3 or 4 months off, and we will circle you back into some other form of service. I'm sure others will be calling. So at this time, I want to turn it over to Madam, our board chair, for the presentation of the resolution, and allow other board members to make some comments.
Thank you. I am going to go up to the podium. There we go. Jason. And I'll ask Ms. Trubin to join me, please. Wow. Is this one? Yeah. Over the past few months, and actually before then, I've always thought about the profile of a Virginia graduate. And I'm not sure how many families in our audience know what the profile of a Virginia graduate is. You can actually find it online. And I'm sure our school board members and superintendent and staff and administration know what the profile of a Virginia graduate looks like. And just really briefly, I wanted to kind of talk about that framework and the purpose of it. I think this was kind of put into place in 2014. It was started in really 2015. It was kind of codified, and there were some criteria around what the profile of a Virginia graduate looks like. And with that, there came some domains. So there were some specific components and criteria that we expect for a Virginia graduate, along with some domains and then some other components within those domains that kind of describe those domains. And I'll just give you a brief kind of overview of that. So for the profile of a Virginia graduate, really, we want our graduates to be able to achieve and apply appropriate academic knowledge. We want them to be able to align knowledge, skills, and personal interests with career opportunities. We want them to be able to attain and demonstrate productive workplace skills, qualities, and behaviors. We want them to value and build connections with diverse communities. And we want them to understand personal and civic responsibility. And so those are the things that we want our graduates to be able to do, and they fall within these 4 domains. You have your content knowledge, your workplace skills, your community engagement and civic responsibility, and you also have your career exploration. And within those 4, you can kind of really sum it down to this, and I'm sorry to belabor this, but I do think this is important, and we really should know this. So under those 4 domains, under content knowledge, we want a graduate to be able to achieve and apply appropriate academic technical knowledge, right? We want them under the workplace skills to be able to attain and demonstrate productive workplace skills, qualities, and behaviors. Under the 3rd domain of community engagement and civic responsibility, we want them to be able to build connections and values for interactions with diverse communities. And finally, under the 4th domain, which is career exploration, we want them to be able to align the knowledge that they have with the skills and personal interests with career opportunities. And I will tell you, over the years, as I thought about this and being in Erica's presence in our board meetings and just really watching her and listening to her, I thought about, wouldn't it be amazing if we had the Erica Trubin profile of a Virginia school board member? And I say that sincerely because I truly believe that she models what every school division needs in a school board member. And because of her, I believe that we are where we are, and without her, we would not be here. And so I wanted her to be up here because the Erica Trubin profile of a Virginia school board member looks something like this, right? This is not exhaustive. This doesn't capture everything, but this will give you some of the characteristics and the traits and the qualities that I've personally seen, and I'm sure you've seen and our other school board members have seen, that Erica Trubin has demonstrated throughout her tenure on this board. So as I talked about it from the profile of a graduate in terms of what we want our students to be, we want our school board members to be this. And this is Erica Trubin, being prepared to participate reasonably in every single meeting. Her focus is always on serving our children, all of our children. Remembering that your identity is with the community and not the staff, right? It's not that we don't support our staff, but we work for our community, for the parents and the children that we serve. Represent our community, not a single constituent. Be responsible for the group behavior and productivity of a board. And also, I came up with those 4 domains like we had under the profile of a graduate. Mine, there's two that I had to kind of modify a little bit, but the first one was content knowledge. Erica stays abreast education trends and topics, understands the mission and vision of the school division, supports and stands behind the school's strategic plan, knows and is familiar with all school board policies. The second domain is board meeting skills. On the profile of Virginia, it's workplace skills. Here it's board meeting skills. Brings valuable input and feedback to discussion topics during meetings. Responds thoughtfully. Demonstrates discussion preparedness. Fosters board cohesion. Challenges the status quo. Is open to diverse perspectives on issues. Thinks critically and creatively, demonstrates highest level of integrity, and honors her personal convictions. The third domain, community engagement and civic responsibility. She eagerly responds to community members regarding school board concerns and issues. She takes all inquiries seriously and manages them appropriately. She engages with community with high level of professionalism. She courageously responds to hard and or controversial inquiries. She doesn't punt it to someone else. She establishes appropriate boundaries. In the fourth domain, instead of career exploration, I came up with continuing education. She seeks out education opportunities to enhance her board service. She stays abreast national and state level topics as they relate to school issues. She completes mandatory trainings as advised by local and state officials. And all these domains being implemented with fidelity as we think about critical thinking, creative thinking, collaboration, communication, and citizenship. Erica, over the past 7 years that I have gotten to know you and work with you, my admiration has increased so much. You have challenged me to do better and to be better and to really look at my board responsibility differently. Erica, you are the proof that being a leader doesn't mean that you have to have a title as leader. Even when you weren't the board chair or vice chair or whatever, you were still a leader for all of us. You quietly led and provided leadership throughout your tenure, and I only had the privilege of serving about 7.5 years with you, but I know from following you even before I was a school board member that your entire tenure on the school board really was to be envied, and you demonstrated your leadership. And I truly believe that we as a board are better, and as a result, our school division is better. Your dedication to Winchester Public Schools is unmatched, and many will never know the extent of your sacrifice and the many hard decisions that you have made time after time. I want to personally say thank you to you and for your family for their support. There are so many things that I could say about you, Erica, and they will all be true, but I'll only say a few. You are kind, you are funny, you are generous with your gift, and as I have said for so many years, and I wish James was here to attest to this, you are absolutely the smartest person I know. Not woman, the smartest person that I know. And I want to thank you for your friendship and being the model we should all follow. And at this time, I will conclude my comments with a resolution of the Winchester Public School Board. Whereas Erica Trubin has served as a member of the Winchester Public School Board from July 1st, 2012 until December 31st, 2022. And whereas she has performed all the duties of her appointment with diligence, faithfulness, integrity, and a sacrifice of much personal time. And whereas during her tenure on the board, she has provided valuable service as a member and as a chairman as well as the board's representative to numerous committees within the division and the board's delegate to the Virginia School Boards Association. Whereas during her tenure, she has been a courageous leader who, by example, inspired her colleagues to follow their convictions, has stood for quality education, responsible stewardship of resources, and promoted the welfare of children, sought the employment of the best professional staff, and supported continued curriculum development in order to maintain the excellence of Winchester Public Schools. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Winchester Public School Board express publicly to Erica N. Trubin their grateful appreciation for her valuable service to the citizens of the city of Winchester and their children, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution signed by the members of the Winchester Public School Board, duly enacted, reframed, and presented to Erica N. Trubin as a testimonial of their respect for and gratitude to her, and that a copy be incorporated into the minutes of the Winchester Public School Board and forwarded to the Handley Board of Trustees and to the Common Council of the City of Winchester. This has been adopted as of December 12, 2022.
Thank you, Marie. I'm very overwhelmed, which I thought I would be, which is why I had to write my comments ahead of time. What a journey this has been. When I started this role over 10 years ago, I was reflecting and I realized, gosh, I was a fairly young mother of 5 children, ages 2, you little guys were 2 to 7. Looking for a way to serve the community that I lived in and that I didn't grow up in. And after a few nudges from a couple community members and an interview with council, I thought, okay, maybe I have a few abilities. I can help advance our schools, can help lead and serve. How foolish of me. Back then, I thought this was about what I could do to lead and serve. And what I didn't know, what no one told me, is that being on the school board would be the opportunity of a lifetime. That the experiences, the challenges, the victories, and the defeats, because there have been many, they would change me in indescribable ways and formulate many of the very deepest convictions that I hold today. Tonight, I just wanted to take a moment to share 5 hopefully brief things with you as a way of reflection, but hopefully to maybe provide a little advice and a touch of inspiration, I hope too. Number 1, serve on the school board, but not if you're a college football fan. You will miss the national championship game every single year. So this is not for you, especially if you're like an Ohio State fan or somebody that's, top notch and gets the national championship game most years, but not this year. Number 2, nothing can replace the power of a handwritten note. Take 5 minutes a week. Write a couple sentences to someone you admire, someone you respect. When you see a student or a faculty member do something amazing, or whatever profession you're in, you won't regret it. The impact of doing that lasts a lifetime to the receiver of those notes. Number 3, relationships formulate the basis of everything that we do. Invest in them. Know your teammates. Know what they care about. Know how they drink their coffee. It's just so important. Relationships don't scale, right? As we grow as a division, you can only hold so many relationships, but culture is what relationships build, and culture scales. And our most important job as leaders in the school division, whether we're in administration, teacher, principal, school board, is to build the right culture. And over the past weeks and months, a few people have asked me, like, well, what are you most proud of? And what's the greatest accomplishment, in the last 10 years? And I'm like, oh, finally, an easy question to answer after all this time. It's the way we've led collectively. When we disagreed, and we've disagreed, we've done so respectfully. We've debated constructively to get to what we felt was the best solution for kids. When others went low, we went high. We've done our very best to serve as role models for our students, and our students desperately need role models in leadership and in service. As they grow and mature, this is what they need to see. They need to see what constructive debate looks like, and I know this board will carry that forward. Number 4, say yes. When I interviewed for city council, there's only a few people that know this story. I was asked how I could possibly serve on the board with, quote, all of those kids at home, unquote. That was 2012, not 1965, I assure you, in spite of my gray hair that this board has given me. There was a big part of me that just wanted to walk out of that interview. Like, what am I doing? When someone asks you questions about whether you're capable of doing something, use it to deepen your resolve. Use it to make you stronger, to propel you to get where you need to be. Walk through the door, grab the bull by the horns, whatever analogy gets you there, but say yes. I can't imagine my life if I hadn't said yes that day. The last one, our kids, our students, y'all are absolutely remarkable. When I look at their accomplishments, how they view the diversity and the challenges around them, I can't help but be deeply inspired. They make mistakes. Reminder, we all did too. They're on their phones too much. Reminder, if we had smartphones when we were kids, we would have been on our phones too much too. But if you have any doubts about the future of this city, I would implore you to come have a conversation with Axel or Olivia. You won't regret it. These kids are truly amazing, not just them, but collectively our community. Just in closing, I want to take a moment to thank the many individuals that serve our students every single day, from the parents that volunteer to our community that just constantly leans in to help us with all the needs, our bus drivers, cafeteria workers, maintenance crew, teachers, support staff, leaders. We're just surrounded by greatness and a shared understanding that schools cannot do it alone. We've never been able to, and we won't be able to in the future. To my board members that I've served with over the years, I am so grateful for each and every one of you. You've not only taught me so many things, but you've supported me in bringing my whole self to this role. I was thinking about the Hanley graduation song, since you get to go to a lot of graduations in this role, For Good, that they sing every year, and I was looking up the lyrics, and a portion of them say, we are led to those who help us most to grow, if we let them, and we help them in return. And I know who I am today because I knew you, and because I knew you, I have been changed for good. And finally, just to my family, I don't say thank you enough. You've been here for me every single step of the way. You've endured me attending countless meetings. I've missed bedtime tuck-ins, story time, had more cereal nights for dinner than I probably care to admit as a mom, trying to do my best. And you've been there for me when it was truly impossible for me to be emotionally present because I was trying to lead and serve through some really difficult times. And never one time, truly not one time, did you ask me to step down or did you question my why? there's no other way to describe your support but as all-encompassing, and you truly are, to use a cliche, have been the wind beneath my wings. I'm eternally grateful to all of you and to my other, extended family listening tonight. Thank you for letting me give it my all. I hope I've made you all proud, and I love you very much. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Rubin. I'll start here for any other board members that would like to give a comment for Ms. Rubin. Mr. Wallace?
I wanted to say that my short time being with you, Ms. Truman, has been it's been a pleasure. I have a lot of passion for this community that y'all know I care a lot deeply, but with that, I've learned some things from you. And one of the deepest things that I've learned is that the decisions that we make today can affect your future. And I've always noticed that when we come down to making decisions, you always make sure that this decision is not going to affect us later on, whether it be budget ideals or costs or what it could affect later on down the line. And I always admire that because you're always thinking about not just the present, but what it can look like when we're no longer here and what we're passing on. So with that, I've took that as my motto to always think like, what would Erica think about? How would this affect our future? And that's very important. And I will say that because of you being on this board and the short time I've been with you, you have made an easier future for a lot of people. And I appreciate you for that. And that will not get noted, but you are the main reason why the future of this city and the future of our students will be right, and made it easier for my term to keep on making the right decisions. So thank you for building that bridge where we can cross across. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Erica, first I'll say, Truman family, thank you for giving us Erica for the last 10 years. Like, I understand, like, what that means, and that's tough. Like, you're missing a lot of bedtimes, you're missing not just football games, but, a lot of things, and appreciate that. That's a sacrifice that everybody makes. But Erica, I've gotten to know you over the past 4 years now, I think, and, there's been some times I've called you and I was, like, melting down, you know what I mean? And you gave me some wisdom, and that I will forever be grateful for that. 10 years is a long time to do anything, much less sit up here. And we've seen some things in the last few years that I don't think any school board has ever had to deal with. COVID, that uncharted waters, right? And you were steady, hand on the wheel, and we appreciate you for that so much. Like, Winchester is indebted to you for what you've done, for sure. And quickly, I'll say thanks, Vince, for hanging out with us for a couple months. It's his last meeting, too.
I have a couple notes here. I don't want to make sure I don't forget anything. When I was thinking back in 2017 of serving on this board, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and it's very intimidating. I would come, like Stuart is in the audience tonight, I would come and I would sit there to try to learn as much as I could learn and see and hear the discussions that would happen up here and think of what I could add to it. And it was super intimidating because I didn't know anybody up here except for, and I didn't really know Erica, but I knew who she was. I think our kids went to the same pre-K together. And she does this thing that I think the best teachers do when they teach. And I don't even know how to articulate it very well, but it's a look that teachers can give their students, a look of reassurance of, like, you got this, you can do this. And I just remember, and maybe you don't even know that you did it, but I would be sitting out in the audience and I would be like, why am I thinking about doing this? And then I would catch eyes with Erica and she would just give me this, little smile or something, just that look of reassurance. And anyway, for me, it was very impactful and it went a very long way. So I appreciate you for that. I appreciate you for your voice in all matters, but particularly those that you were most passionate about. When I get passionate like right now, my voice tends to shake, and Erica's never does. And it's something I envy about you, and I'll work on that myself. But and you know, it's a characteristic that I think is when you're sitting in this seat, it is very important to have that strong, resolute voice. And lastly, I want to clear up some misunderstanding. It's a part of school board legend now that Erica and I won whatever that game was like 2 years ago. We had to solve a puzzle or something. And we like to brag about it at every chance we get. We like to brag about how we destroyed all the other teams that were playing that game that day. But I have to clear it up publicly now that it was all Erica. As it usually is, it's all Erica. I had nothing to do with that win that day. Although Miss Carmen, you and I did make a good team this year too. So we'll carry that forward. And like Mike, I do want to say again, thank you to Vince. Stepping up in an interim position when you could be at home watching football and Wheel of Fortune and stuff like that, to be tapped on the shoulder and to say yes, I just think that that's so admirable and speaks a lot to your character, and I appreciate the opportunity to hang out with you again on a regular basis. But thanks to you both. You're loved and you're appreciated.
Erica, I would just like to say thank you for your dedication and your service and the experience that you have relayed since I've been on the board. I appreciate it, and I wish you many wonderful ventures for the future.
Well, Eric, I remember the first time that you and I served together was not actually on the school board. It was back in the big recession from years ago when we had to cut a lot of money from the city budget, and they appointed citizen members to a committee chaired by Councilor Art Major, who had defeated me for council, but brought me onto that. And we were a couple months in and snagging through some things, and then you came on as one of the, like me, one of the citizen committee members, and you impressed me right from the very start on that. I mean, this was not an easy job to do. It's, you know, tonight we're going to be looking at how we spend some extra money, and we're going to put it where we think it will do the most good. It's a lot more difficult to go in and have to cut budgets, and we've had to do that for the city, and we had to do it as members of the school board in years past. I came on in 2010. The board was very different, and the relationship between the board and the superintendent was quite a bit different back then. I wasn't sure I was going to serve another term, but then in 2012, they were telling us about who some of the people that were going to be coming on, Richard and Mary Margaret, and they said, and Erica Trubin's coming on. And I was like, wow, Erica's coming on the board. How scary, and how exhilarating and how inspiring that will be, because right from the very start, I have a reputation sometimes as being confident and sometimes overconfident and very set in my positions. You are probably the person most in my entire life who's ever made me question my thoughts. If I say something and then you tell me something different or from another perspective, you've always forced me to take another look. I haven't always changed my mind, but the other thing is sometimes I don't have a position on an issue, and I'll sit back and look through and I'll just wait to find out what you say, and then I'll say, well, that makes total sense. You have been the person on this board, and when you consider the caliber of the colleagues we've had, you're the one, this is the greatest compliment I can play. You are the person who's most inspired me on this board, and the reason why I stayed, and part of the reason why I agreed to come back, however temporary that was going to be. As you and I go off, we're the last two who will have never had to ask for a vote or put a sign in somebody's yard, So that is also another change. But I just wanted to thank you for those years. I think you also set the tone for what a chair is supposed to do, because no matter how strong a school system a board is, it's the chair who really sets the tone. And you and Allison and Marie have really established a bar that you really set the standard for what, and thank God there are people like Marie who step up and are able to do that because they've learned from the best, and now Marie will teach the next generation, and that's the way it should be. So I just want to thank you for your years of service and for your friendship, and I also want to thank your family because having been involved in politics for many years, I do know that the family also serves in a position like this. So I wish you all the very best, and now that we're both going off, I know when there's a vacancy, I won't be asked to come back on unless you have turned it down.
Oh, thank you, Vince. That's actually not true. But yes, this is also Vince's last meeting with us. And like Dr. Pierce Gonzalez said, and I was going to say, thank you for saying yes, right? Especially, you know, you've been on the board, you've resigned your seat, and you've moved on with your life, and someone out of the blue asks you, hey, you know, we need you, can you come back? That's hard to do, right? You literally, it's an interruption in your everyday life, and so we're really grateful that you said yes and brought your expertise and just really continue to challenge us with your ideas and your perspectives, so we really do appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Any more comments?
No more comments, but we do have a small gift for both of you. 1923 T-shirt for Erica. If you'll pass that down to Vince. So, small token for y'all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, that does conclude our recognitions portion of our agenda this evening. Moving on to public comment. At this time, we hear any comments or thoughts from our public. They have 3 minutes. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board? Madam Clerk, is there anyone that may have signed up to address the board this evening? Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so hearing none, that will close our public comments portion and move us on to the consent agenda. We have quite a few things on our consent agenda this evening, and I'm sure everyone's had an opportunity to kind of look over them. We have our approval of the consent agenda items, our agenda, our minutes, bills, board service resolution for Erica Trubin, the WEF reappointment, student resource officer MOU, Special Education Advisory Council nominations, and our facility usage.
I'll move the approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Di Benedetto and a second by Mr. Birchnow. Is there any discussion regarding our consent agenda? All right, all opposed? I'm sorry, all in favor? All right, any opposed? All right, good. I'm glad there's no opposition. Thank you. Our consent agenda passes. All right, that moves us on to item number 5 on our agenda this evening. We do have reports and presentations. First one up, we have our new CTE programs that will be presented by Ms. Katie Lockhart. Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to start by thanking members of our Winchester Fire and Rescue Department for being here this evening to show their support for one of our programs that we are proposing. While Winchester's had an outstanding list of opportunities in career and technical education, it's always important that we continue to evaluate what our community needs are, what our student needs are, and provide the best opportunities to prepare our students for in-demand, high-skill, high-wage careers. In order to offer new programs, the Department of Education requires that we show a demonstration of labor market need through either labor and statistics data or other community need data. Additionally, surveys from students demonstrating their interests to ensure the enrollment of the programs offered. So 2 programs tonight that we are proposing potentially be added to the Emil and Grace Shahada Innovation Center, a firefighter program and the electricity program.
Collaboration is the name of our game this year, so we've got a lot of collaboration that has gone into the thought process behind these. Since opening, oh, I just realized I have control. Sorry. Maybe. There we go. Since opening the Innovation Center, Mr. Bruce has ensured that we have a strong foothold with the EMT program, and our enrollment has continued to increase. It's been our dream to create a workforce that supports the needs of our community, and what more crucial area than to ensure that our first responders have a secure and stable pipeline into the workforce. We've had the pleasure of working with Chief Henschel, who I saw is back. He's gone out and done his duty and returned for us this evening. And Assistant Chief Orndorff, who's been there for multiple development meetings as we've talked about, are we able to do this, and what would it look like, and what do we need, and where are we going to put it? So a high school firefighter course aligns with the Winchester Fire and Rescue Department's strategic plan as well. Based on the community strategic plan data, 85.5% of the community felt that staffing levels were too low. So it's our responsibility as the high school programming to prepare our students to step into that workforce, because I sure hope that when we need the firefighter that they're going to be there. So while our Winchester Fire and Rescue Department offers training themselves, being able to have a continuous high school graduate that earns an EMT certification and a firefighter certification annually would create some consistency in the potential employment pipeline. Strategic Goal 1 for Winchester Fire and Rescue Department is to utilize partnership to augment and improve fire and rescue response. Winchester Public Schools Learner Empowerment Strategy 1.3 is to establish comprehensive pathways that lead to employment, enrollment, enlistment, and/or entrepreneurship. It's supported through a mutually beneficial relationship that would serve a critical need for our community. So we've met on several occasions to strategize on what's needed to be purchased for equipment, as well as what supports Winchester Fire and Rescue Department could help supply, and how could we collaborate, because obviously to put in a fire and rescue program would be incredibly expensive, and it would be difficult for us to do independently, so it's crucial that we collaborate on these things. Some things we've talked about is training time at their training facility, shared use of certain equipment, and critical instructor support for those high-risk skills activities. Our first strategy that we discussed was evaluating student interest. Survey responses that are listed nearly 700 responses of students in grades 7 through 12. We had 192 express interest in a firefighter program, which came out to be about 28% of those who responded. A VDOE firefighter program is regulated through partnership with the Virginia Department of Fire Programs. This critical safety includes critical safety measurements and requirements to ensure the safe environment as possible. Some of the key requirements are that students must be 16 prior to starting. They have to have written parental consent. For high-risk skills trainings, a ratio of 5-to-1 must be maintained with the instructor-to-student ratio. And moderate skills training requires a 10-to-1 ratio. The instructor must also possess a current Virginia Department of Fire program instructor certification. This is another critical area where our collaboration is so necessary, as I would have a very hard time figuring out exactly where to look for that firefighter instructor. However, we have partners that are going to help in identifying those potential candidates. In addition to some of the other benefits of the relationship, the students will be required to have a certain number of hours volunteering for the program in a local fire station. For us, this counts as work-based learning opportunity, which you all know is part of the College and Career Readiness Index, and also could count as a graduation requirement for students. In addition, it connects our students to their community and boosts that civic responsibility, and also providing a support to the stations. In part of our research, we've visited James Rumsey Technical Center in West Virginia to view their program and look at what's necessary and to see what the feasibility would be for us to be able to put a program into our building. There is an initiating cost that can be utilized. A key necessity is going to be in the turnout gear. Sorry. Turnout gear, as you can see, that's a graphic there that's just some estimates of what the cost is. It must be in tip-top shape to ensure the safety of our students, and it needs to fit them appropriately. So it's going to be important that we have a little bit of latitude in sizing. But it is going to be something that would be an ongoing year-to-year use that could go forward with other classes. The goal would be to operate an EMT and a firefighter program simultaneously, which we would allow students then to collaborate in scenarios that would best replicate what could happen in reality so that they could work on the situations. And I know Mr. Bruce was doing a great job of doing real-life scenarios with students earlier this week. So it's always interesting for them to do that. So our second collaboration that we have been working on is through a partnership with Laurel Ridge Community College with the electricity. Finding instructors in general has been tough. We all know that that's very hard. Finding tradespeople that want to come into education is a little bit tougher. So we've been discussing with Laurel Ridge. They've been having an issue with that. It's tough for us, so why don't we work together and join forces? So the idea would be that the instructor would be Laurel Ridge employee, would teach 2 sections for us in the afternoon of electricity part-time, and then in the evenings would teach the adult program for Laurel Ridge. Similar to the firefighter, with regards to student interest survey, we had about 210 students say they would be interested in an electricity program, so 31.5% of those respondents. The program with Laurel Ridge is a registered apprenticeship program through the Department of Labor and Industry. It's a 4-year coursework program that then also comes along with work experience. For us, if we are able to offer this, we would offer it as a youth registered apprenticeship. So what that means is the students would get the first 2 years of theory under their belt and then go on with Laurel Ridge and continue their education to get the last 2 as a part of a registered apprenticeship. So those 2 pieces together make that eligibility to sit for a journeyman's license, which is partway to a master's electrician's license. And as you can see on there with the median salary it is, that's not a bad deal. In addition to completing the first 2 years of the high school at no cost, graduates could then enroll in the G3 program through the community college. G3 stands for Get Skills, Get a Job, and Get Ahead. This program could pay for all the tuition if students qualify in specific programs. Electricity is one of those qualifying programs, so they could go on and complete what they need to get their journeyman's at no cost to themselves. The program requires us the use of the NCCER online platform. It's the National Center for Construction Education and Research. The nice thing about this is it's mutually beneficial. It comes with credentials that count for both the high school, for the Department of Education, and also for the community college requirements. The cost of the instructor would be shared, half the cost of a full-time employee, which is going to be significantly easier to attract a full-time employee than looking for a part-time candidate. The demand for the trades is always higher than the ability of the number of students the program can support. So this would add diversity to the professional skills program as well as providing skilled tradespeople, which is a crucial labor market need. Additionally, electrical work is a foundational skill not only for residential electricians, but also industrial electricians, critical maintenance workers in the manufacturing industry as well. So those manufacturers we have locally, when they're looking for those industrial maintenance repair technicians, having the electrical skills is usually the basis that they are looking for. So students would have a multitude of career pathways to pursue after earning a journeyman's license. CTE programs in Winchester seek to provide high-quality, skilled educational opportunities with industry-recognized credentials that open the doors to entry-level career opportunities. Both these programs would meet local industry needs and align with areas of growth and job opportunities locally. So we're looking forward to the possibility of offering these to our students. Are there any questions?
Any questions or comments for Ms. Lockhart? Ms. Truman?
Thank you for the presentation. In the firefighting program, I was interested in how that dovetails with the EMT program, and what does my curriculum look like or schedule look like my junior and senior year? Is this 6 of my 8 classes, or?
Right, so they would spend half their time, so each program would be double blocked. They're both a year long, so they would take 4 out of their 8 blocks would be dedicated to one program their junior year and one program their senior year. Ideally, we'd like students to be able to take both programs. We're not going to require that because we certainly don't want to prevent a student from, okay, I've decided in my senior year I really want to do the firefighter. Well, they could get their EMT in the future if that's what's the right fit for them. But it would be essentially 8 blocks out of a 2-year opportunity, but they would have the possibility of doing both programs, which would be an ideal candidate to the workforce.
Thank you. I think both programs are terrific and appreciate the community partnership. It really takes a village to make these things work, and it's really neat to see the student interest as well. I know my boys mentioned the survey, hey, they had plumbing, they had, so they really latch on to these things too, pretty early on, and if anything, they're already thinking about it, before they get up to Hanley. So thank you all.
And that's our goal. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Ms. Lockhart? Sure.
Thank you for your presentation on the, I'm going to comment about the fire department thing. I 100% excited about this. As a 16-year-old kid joined the fire department going into my freshman year in high school, and I will stress how important that was to changing my life to the person I am today. Getting that training and having that knowledge also comes to a thing called responsibility. It's something that I kind of lacked, and those in the room understand what I'm talking about because they practically raised me and trained me. But it comes with something with responsibility, and I can say as a freshman, I wasn't the best student. I didn't really want to go to school, but being in that fire department, the men and women shaped me to understand the importance that if you're going to go out here and save human life, that comes responsibility to make sure you take care of yourself in school and act professional. So I would say that doing this program and having it at the school, we will see kids change and mature much faster and understand the responsibility. And if they don't even come out of there and become a career firefighter, I can guarantee you they will come out and do something positive to the community in a career way. So I'm excited for it, and I'm glad it's here. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Lockhart? Okay, Ms. Crawford?
I just like to say, I think it's very beneficial that we form more partnerships with community and to get our students better apt for the working environment. The more we do while we have them, the better we're off as far as our community and our workforce. So I am totally for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Katie. And just procedurally for the board, you'll see the course descriptions in the program of studies that will be presented to you in a little bit. They're listed as proposed, so we have put language in there. We don't know if this is going to happen or not, but certainly it's on the roadmap, and we hope to bring these to light. So kids will be able to sign up for them, understanding that it's not a done deal yet, but they will see that in their program studies. And then, of course, you saw the budgetary numbers, so some of those things will be part of our budget request as we go through the budget process. The large bulk of that is one-time cost that we can, once we pay for it, we won't have to pay for it again.
Thank you.
Okay, that moves us to, okay, we're still on item number 5 on our agenda this evening under reports and presentations. Our last item here is special education inclusive access assessment.
And I apologize, it appears as though my PowerPoint's not pulling up. There we go, thanks. Before I begin, I would also like to publicly express, on behalf of the Special Education Department, our appreciation for Ms. Trubin and her service with Winchester Public Schools. Ms. Trubin, you have really inspired me and our team to not only answer tough questions, but begin asking those tough questions ourselves, so thank you. The purpose in my presentation this evening is actually to present a new requirement from the Board of Education in which Winchester Public Schools is required once every 3 years to conduct a self-assessment and subsequent action plan for our inclusive practices for students with disabilities. The self-assessment tool, as I said, is completed once every 3 years and is required now under law to be presented to the superintendent, our Special Education Advisory Committee, as well as the school board. The action planning tool is a Likert scale which was conducted by school-based teams at each of our 7 schools. Each team comprised of at least one school administrator, a general education representative, and a special education lead at minimum. There are 17 total indicators on the tool, and our teams were asked to give a rating from strongly disagree to strongly agree on each of these indicators. As an overview, I'm really pleased to report that almost 80% of the indicators, our school-based teams agreed or strongly agreed that these practices were already a part of our programs. Our action planning will actually focus on the other 30% in which we had a little bit less consensus. In giving some highlights of the things that are going really well regarding our inclusive practices, so those indicators in which our school-based teams identified, or 80% of them strongly agreed or agreed were present and active in the schools. Things like the provision of a continuum of service, access to materials, shared co-teaching roles and responsibilities, access to social and after-school activities, and also family inclusion. These are things that were also a part of our initial assessment when I came in under the directorship. These were things that our staff identified as well in other measures that were already prevalent with our inclusive practices. Our planning tool, in which we will focus on the indicators in which there was less agreement, will focus on 3 primary areas: a shared vision of inclusion in district-wide prioritization of inclusion, protected and collaborative planning, as well as paraprofessional training. Now, I would like to identify the shared vision of inclusion and district-wide prioritization. Well, that was an indicator where there was less consensus of its prevalence. We actually felt as though that was a relative strength to the division, in which our schools actually identified that they have their own inclusion priorities and that they're very clear about their active engagement of students with disabilities at the school level. So while it's something that we will continue to work on at the district level, we were really pleased that it's not that it was absent. In looking at our 3 action items, again, this isn't information that is new to our department. These 3 indicators are already part of our Special Education Strategic Plan, which we refer to as CTCT. We're focusing on a continuum of services, transparent communication, capacity building, and transition. And within our CTCT plan, we already have a comprehensive framework to support special education paraprofessional training. And in this action item, we are proposing that 100% of our special education TAs engage in at least one professional development learning opportunity annually. Our second area of focus will be a shared vision and district-wide prioritization of inclusion. And I'm really excited to say that we're already actively engaging our school administrators, our coaches, our teachers, and our provisionally licensed staff in actively engaging in professional development surrounding our high leverage practices. Our third indicator focuses on protected and collaborative planning, and this is a real challenge in inclusive settings. It requires not only collaborative partnerships and the willingness to collaborate, which many of our staff have, but it also requires things such as how we plan our master schedule and dedicating that time to that collaborative planning beyond that of just the collaborative spirit. So we have been working with our school administrators,
with our instructional supervisors and staff in the instruction department to begin addressing some of these complexities to maximize our co-planning and co-teaching opportunities as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding our focus, if there are any.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Mullins at this point? Hmm? Okay. My internet is out, so I'm having to share. Are you guys as well? Okay.
But this is
I think Haley, you're good.
All right, thank you.
Haley, I think you're good. Thank you so much. All right, that moves us on to future action items. We are on item number 6 on our agenda this evening. We have our 2023 school board meeting schedule. Dr. Mahika.
So with our transition to an elected school board, you understand that in January, we will welcome 2 new board members who've recently been elected. Stuart's here with us this evening, and then Melissa Harris will also be joining us. At that meeting in January, you will elect your board chair and vice chair, and we'll transition from, typically we've done that in July, but now we will do that every January after the election. And so as part of that, we're going to change when you adopt your calendar of meetings. And so that will also happen in January for the calendar year instead of the fiscal year or the school year. So what you have before you is proposed dates for meetings from January all the way through December. Very typical of what we have done in the past, so nothing new other than we did put an option on there for the business meeting in November. As you're well aware, many times that falls on the parade night. So if you would like to, you are welcome to have that one meeting on a Tuesday. If that was really important to this board, that is completely up to you. I have no opinion on that. So that's the only thing to discuss tonight. I would say this is not an action item. You'll be voting on this in January, so it's only up here for discussion tonight.
Okay, any discussion? I guess I will give my 2 cents about the November 27th meeting that Monday. I personally, this is not representative of the board, it's just me. I just want to clarify that. I personally would like to move it to that Tuesday. I absolutely love the Christmas parade, and I think a lot of families are out. I know this year we had a high turnout, especially because of COVID years. You know, people were in and we didn't have it. The weather was great this year, and so I'm also saying that we probably don't get a lot of our community partners tuning into our meetings because they are out enjoying the parade as we should. So that's just my little spill. Okay, we have another board member looking at the college football national.
It's on the 9th.
It's on the 9th.
Are we clear?
So are we good, I guess?
We have a meeting.
Oh.
Can we do a little asterisk for that?
I mean.
Oh, it's January. Oh, for the.
Are we good? All right.
That one won't take too long.
All right. Okay. All right. Again, this is a future action item. It is not up for a vote this evening. Yeah. All right. So that we are now on item number 7 on our agenda this evening. You will notice we have quite a few action items. We have first up our John Hanley High School Program of Studies. Mr. Bula.
Good evening. Each year we bring modifications to the program of studies that reflect any changes that we need to make. Sometimes we bring them throughout the school year. Want to give a shout out to Connie Banton for the work that she did with the school, the guidance counselors, principals and teachers to do their work on this. The majority of the additions went along with Ms. Mullins and the SPED department, and aligning with the Earned Applied Studies diploma. And of course, we added the future perspective for the firefighting and the electricity. There Any questions or comments?
Any questions or comments? Just a note, a few of us are having a small technical issue where we're not able to review the document. I know we all probably have reviewed it in advance, but just in case someone thought of something this evening, now's your opportunity to ask a question or comment. Any? Okay, this is an action item, again. I'm sorry. Does anyone have theirs up available?
My motion's up. I make a motion to approve the 2023-2024 high school program of studies as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Trubin, second by Mr. Wallace. Is there any discussion? I won't say further because we really haven't had any. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That motion passes for the program of study. Next up. Okay, we have Mr. Wallace second, and initial motion was Ms. Trubin. Okay. Next up, we have our policy JFC dress code. Ms. Buckley.
Good evening. I am back as promised with revised language for the dress code portion of policy JFC. Over the course of the last month, I have collected stakeholder feedback to include teachers, parents, and school administrators. I have networked with colleagues across the state, and we have landed on a policy that we believe reflects everything the board shared last month, what our stakeholders have communicated to us in regards to being personalized to individual students, but also we want to consider what is enforceable for our school administrators in the schools. So the policy we landed for is gender neutral, so you will see a lot of that ambiguous language that we discussed last month has been removed. Specifically, if you'll notice, we have technology. Okay, the image of being covered from the, it must have straps. We are not saying how wide or short, they just must have straps and must be covered to the minimum of 3 inches on the top of the leg. So in regards to just the running shorts and that we discussed last month, this would meet that criteria in regards to the slit on the side. We also discussed hoodies on number 4, and this, the way this is written, gives school administrators more autonomy to approve individual student needs than what was written in our last policy. And then another concern that we talked a lot about is down under accommodations and compliance, just making sure those conversations are private and that we're listening and to understand any, cultural needs that our families might have. And I did note in number 5 that Winchester Public Schools prohibits the use of exclusionary discipline sanctions solely for noncompliance with dress and grooming policies. But we certainly wouldn't want that to be confused. And the reason I added number 6 is that if it does become a repetitive issue and it has been communicated to the student and the family, then of course our student conduct policies would be enforced. So I'm happy to hear any feedback that you have.
Is it working? Okay. Any questions or feedback for Ms. Buckley? Ms. Ritchie? No? Okay, you're fine. Dr. Pearson Gonzalez.
Thank you, Ms. Buckley, for the work that you've put into this, and I don't have it in front of me, so I'm going to be turning around. I like this much more than what we had. I will reiterate something that I've said, I think, in previous meetings, which is I hope we can get this in front of all of our teachers and staff, perhaps during that week preceding the start of the school year. This is let's be honest, this is an August, early September issue. That's when we're going to be seeing this. And so if we can get in front of everybody at that time so that we're all working from the same understanding, that would be great. One of our neighbors brought up to me that as it currently is right now, this dress code is articulated in different places like websites and student handbooks and stuff like that. and they're not they don't all mirror each other.
Consistent.
So if we go ahead and pass this, I would really love to get that cleaned up and see that whatever, whatever verbiage we put out there is the same across all different places where it appears. What else did I want to say? Oh, I just want to make one more point about the middle school or intermediate school situation. My daughter got dressed this morning in overalls, so she's compliant. But I looked at her, and her overalls, which we probably bought for her a month and a half ago, are now what my generation calls high waters. Yeah. And so I just want to publicly say once again, for that particular age group who is growing so quickly, in a matter of weeks, that 3-inch running shorts may end up being shorter than 3-inch running shorts. And I hope we err on the side of compassion and understanding, because I didn't even know that my daughter had grown that much until I saw her wear those same pair of overalls. This morning it happened. So that's all I have to say.
And I will share that just testing those 3 inches, it does allow for, I will share that some dress codes went 3 to 4 inches. We certainly didn't want anybody measuring, but we just erred on the side of caution with what you just shared.
Mr. Di Benedetto?
Yeah, I appreciate the work that you've done on this. The thing that I was most worried about was that we were going to get too technical, and I think the part I like the best is number 6. The administration of each school reserves the right to determine what constitutes appropriate dress. That's a recognition that what we expect from our administrators is common sense, and that's what I wanted to see in this, and I think you've achieved that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Ms. Ritchie?
I just want to say I'm glad we're making the changes. I think the language is definitely more appropriate. I also want to say I think we should make it known to the student body. Maybe when we come back from break, that'd be a good time. Instead of just making the changes and not saying anything, would be more helpful if the student body is aware of the changes. So now everyone is more compliant too.
What's the best way to do that? What do you think?
I know at Hanley we use the judge's docket, so I think that would be a good place to put it, especially because parents mostly read that too, so they could relay information to the students. Do you have any other ideas? Maybe like the announcements?
Yeah, I think maybe during advisory too, when students have to be there and listen to even like a small blurb about something. And about this, I really like how it's also made to be gender neutral. That's very important. I'm glad to see that.
Awesome. Thanks, Al. Thanks, Axel. All right. This is an action item for this evening. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Buckley before we take action this evening? Okay.
Motion to approve revisions to policy JFC student conduct as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Pierce Gonzalez, a second by Mr. Birchenough. Is there any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, thank you. This motion passes. Okay, next up we have our FY23 budget amendment.
Hi, good
Mr.
evening.
Miller. Hi. Thank you.
Good evening. Obviously, this is a continuation of a discussion that has transpired over several meetings. Just to very quickly get to the slides so that those in the audience can see as well. Again, we are experiencing an increase in our ADM growth, which thankfully then is bringing in additional revenue to our division. So what we must do is make some preparations to, since that money's coming in, it'll just revert to carry forward. You need to obviously make plans to expend some of those funds as well. We know that we're in that $730,000 range. We know that this, once the ADM carries into the next year, obviously we would have additional revenue next year as well. We outlined 3 plans that we spoke to in detail at the last meeting. One was a 2%, which then corresponds to the 2% that was taken out of last year's budget. There's a budget scenario that is 1.6 and another scenario that is a little more conservative at 1%. So tonight we are, as we had brought forward those items at the other meetings to go ahead and deliberate, that we were asking for the school board to make a determination. We're requesting that they would. Staff is agreeing on the, thinks and wants to support the 2%. I don't know if there's any questions, but certainly would be here to address and answer those.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Of course, this is not a new item. We've seen this. We've talked about this. We've actually talked through some of the scenarios as well. So I'd like to open up the floor for any other discussion points, comments, questions. Okay.
Motion to implement the option number 1 budget amendment as presented.
Okay, we have a motion for option number 1 by Dr. Pierce Gonzalez. We have a second by Mr. D. Benedetto. Is there any additional discussion? All right, all in favor? Is there any opposed? Okay, this motion item passes. Thank you.
Okay. The next.
So next we have our FY23 mid-year salary scale changes. Mr. Miller, thank you.
Okay, so we have several items that go in consecutive order. The next impact is, since we are implementing, per your vote, to do the 2%, we then will need to adjust our pay scales accordingly. What is noted, we did leave all scales are on there. The 2% is the one that we would be adopting this evening. With that, we need to at least discuss that we are implementing this in a half-year cycle. So the 12-month employees would benefit from this in January. The 10-month employees are technically paid from September through August of the following year. So March is when the paychecks would take effect. So it's obviously kind of crossing in the pay cycles, but the implementation would be for a half year. So the impact, at least for the employees, that would give staff and time to go ahead and prepare the scales, get the necessary payroll records updated, and to have that, ready and prepared for them. So again, we would need to pass the option of the scales that correspond to the 2%.
Motion to approve the option 1 salary scales as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Birchenough. Second. A second by Mr. Wallace. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, all in favor? Is there any opposed? Okay, thank you. That motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right. Okay, next up we have our FY23 contract amendments.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Good
Dr.
evening.
Joyner, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Trubin and Mr. DiBenedetto, I'd like to add to the voices this evening that have appreciated or expressed appreciation for your service so very much. And on behalf of all the employees of our division, all the folks who have chosen a life of service as their profession, I want to tell you that the ability to work with both of you over many, many issues all the years, the opportunity to witness your selfless dedication to our staff and our students and our families is a true inspiration to all of us who work in this division. So I express our deepest appreciation. You will be remembered, you'll be missed, and we wish you the very best. So thank you very much. Madam Chair, yes, as based on the last two actions of the board, we do have a need to notify staff about and amend the salary scales for our full-time and permanent part-time positions. Due to the structure of our contracts, which means because we include the amount of pay in our contracts, we need to provide notice in the following way. So an annual notice of assignment if you've achieved continuing contract, or some support staff also have a notice of assignment. Those folks will be issued a revised notice of pay. We'll tell them when the change will take effect for it's 6 months of the year, so you'll recall 12-month are paid July on, so 6 months for them will be January. 10-month employees, they begin in September, so 6 months will be March. We'll ask a digital signature from those folks, and we'll clearly state that all conditions in their contract remains the same. The second are annual contracts or annual form contracts. Under special covenants in their contracts, it states it's subject to certain conditions of employment. You may recognize the obligations of the board are subject to and contingent upon receiving sufficient budgeting and funds. Normally that was written to account for if we don't get the money. It was not anticipated or doesn't cover when we're talking more. So for these employees, it will be stated as and this is your action I'm requesting tonight, an amendment to those contracts, same revised pay as the other folks, but it's an amendment for those contract forms as opposed to just a revised pay. They will receive a notice. I'll send a memo tomorrow to all staff on the 2%. I'll send a separate memo, wasn't discussed, but in the presentation about those getting an additional 5 bus drivers. Those was the additional 3, which is TAs, nurses, and school psychs, and then certified special ed teachers with the stipend. They'll get their own memo tomorrow. Then we will send these revised notices to 12-month in January and 10-month in March. So the request this evening is to please approve the revised notice of pay as outlined.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Joyner. Are there any questions for Dr. Joyner regarding this, the memos? All right, I will entertain a motion for the contract amendments this evening.
I'll make a motion to approve revised notice of the pay for all annual notice of assignment employees and amend the last paragraph of the special covenant section of annual contracts as presented, because we absolutely have to jump through a lot of hoops to give away money.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion by Mr. B. Benedetto. Sorry, Vince. A second by Ms. Truman. Is there any additional? Oh, Ms. Crawford? All right, Ms. Crawford, thank you for seconding that motion. Is there any additional discussion? All right, all in favor? All right, any opposed? All right, thank you. That motion passes. And
Thanks
that
very much.
moves us to item F under action items on the agenda number 7, ESSER budget amendment. Mr. Miller.
Hi, good evening again. We are required to, for our ESSER, the CARES funding, we're required to do a review every 6 months. This particular plan as well, the governor has called for and is having or requiring all school divisions to review their plans and to submit additional paperwork by the end December 31st, 2022. So while we were planning our review, this is obviously a necessary component of that, and we need to walk you through a few aspects of this. The plan, this is the same document that you have seen over the past 2 years. What we've done is just sort of updated the slides that are in that. Again, the background, at the time when it was originally started, that it must be at least 20% to support the learning gap caused by the pandemic. The federal allocation requirements at that time were to open schools because of trying to force them because of COVID, learning recovery, personal protective and equipment and cleaning enhancements, and air quality. At that time, we were prioritizing opening for schools for students, wanted to build the structures capacities. We wanted, obviously, to maximize the ability for the federal money to support capital items in the future. And then one wanted to minimize the items on future operating budgets, which quite honestly is, it's a tough thing to allocate, but I think we've done that, or given it a very good try. In this, to outline at the time when we first received the money, we noted, it was noted that the city of Winchester had an allocation, and they allocated $250,000 to the school system almost immediately. We did expend that fund by December of 2020. The school system itself received an allocation of just under $750,000, and we began expending that as well. They were going consecutively, and we'd spent those by February of 2021. The first CARES Act came in with a little under $950,000. Those funds were expended by July of 2022. Now we are into the piece that we're going to focus on this evening, which is CARES 2 and CARES 3. We put in the very large Frederick Douglass HVAC project. In order to complete that, it spanned both CARES Acts. So what we've done is we're running some of the labor components of CARES 2 and then retaining the funds for the HVAC. Then as that project kicks in, we'll spend both simultaneously, meanwhile keeping the labor components in motion. It is anticipated originally that we would spend, or we're required to spend, CARES 2 funds by September of 2023, so this coming September. CARES 3 will be required to spend by September 24th, and funds encumbered through November. The project for FDS, for the HVAC project, is set to start the summer of 2024. So, well, about September. And we would obviously getting the equipment and drawing down the funds for September 23, and then spend down those funds with the components. So at the moment, just wanted to give you some how did we expend the funds with the CRF. It was a bus, did some flex subs and contract pay. PP&E supplies were obviously in drastic need at that time. Technology, some food carts and classroom furnitures were needed to spread the kids and children out. Materials for distance learning, and the anticipated budget reductions that we faced, we used some of the CARES money to backfill some of those salary components. CARES 1 is highlighted as well, and very similar trends. We were ramping up the flex subs as we realized that we needed staff on site every day so that the schools could function, because people were, obviously missing at random. Instead of trying to call every night, we just brought them in. And you can see the teachers and salaries and benefits are there. That's highlighting how we spent CARES 1 and the CRF funds. Moving into the component that we are spending now, which is CARES 2 and CARES 3. Again, we're looking, the top box is what we are allocating towards our learning recovery. CARES 2 at the moment has a little under 1.2 million. CARES 3 has a little over 2.3 million, for a combined total of just under 3.5 million to be expended on addressing learning loss, which includes, interventionists, MTS support, Virtual Virginia, resources and instructional supplies to address those needs. Retention and recruitment, we used funding just a little under $1 million of CARES 3 to supplement the bus driver salary pay, the custodian's pay, did some recruitment, attendance bonuses, etc., to help bolster those groups. Within transportation, under CARES 2, there was a bus and some after-school programming, some logistical software. PP&E supplies currently has $50,000 in each year for a total of $100,000. And then, of course, the Frederick Douglass Elementary HVAC project, which is a little over $2.2 million in CARES 2 and $4.8 million in CARES 3. This is just the CARES component. There is another component of ARP money that is $880,000 that was also added to the 7.1. At that time, we were anticipating the project needing almost $8 million. Thankfully, Mr. Smith has received those bids, and the bids came in significantly less, which affords us a wonderful opportunity. We're now able to shift our plan. So what we are proposing to do and want to provide to you tonight and have you seek approval would be to reallocate the funds that were in the HVAC project and put them, address them as the governor is requesting or trying to, his desire would be to put it to learning recovery, certainly our desire as well. Again, we would move the CARES 3 budget for learning loss, which would allow us to fund all of those positions for another year. So we will go all the way through FY24 with the interventionist, the MTS, and other staff. That gets us to just a little under 3.6 million, or a combined a little over 4.7 million over the two plans. Again, we obviously have to leave the additional the retention and recruitment bonuses alone. There was not a transportation component. We have moved the PP&E supplies out of there and then reallocated the remaining funds for the HVAC project, and we also received bids and had enough funds that we selected the rooftop units at Daniel Morgan Middle School, the chillers, to replace those with the funds, and has that balanced at that. So that is our proposed plan. The next slide is designed to sort of help you see the shift, where learning recovery for our original CARES 3 was 28.4% of our total spending, and you can see that the HVAC project was just over 59%. With this reallocation of funds, we will be allocating 43.8% of our funds to learning recovery, slightly less for the retention, and as we remove the transportation and the PPE supplies, the HVAC projects are dropped down to about 44.6%. So what we've done is shifted roughly almost 1.2 million from the HVAC component and shifted it up to the learning recovery component. I'll hold at that point to know if there's any specific questions or anybody.
Any questions for Mr. Miller at this point? No?
Move on to where we are with the next steps. We will obviously continue to monitor the construction cost. We are increasing marketing to solicit input from general public and community groups. This is required from CARES 3. We are doing that and facilitating that with our website. There's a place for public input. That section went live back in July of 2021, so it has been up there for several years. We will complete the required school division LEA ESSER spending plan. We are in the process of doing that, and we would get that and post it onto our website as required by the end of the month. And then our next required plan update would be in following 6 months, so you would look to see and revisit this in June of 2023. Again, this is just where it is located on our website. There's a section in the finance section under pandemic funding. It does list the LEA ARP ESSER plan and the LEA plan for safe return to schools that are required, and they are embedded inside of the CARES 3 document with a link that is required as well. The school division LEA ESSER plan will be linked as soon as that is completed. Okay. That's the end of the slides at this point. Again, I'll ask for comment or if there's any clarity I can provide.
Any questions, comments, or points of clarification for Mr. Miller? I don't know if this is an action item for this evening.
Make a motion to approve the revised ESSER plan as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Birchman. A second by Mr. Wallace. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there any opposed? All right, thank you. That motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have our capital improvement plan. We're on item G under action item 7 on the agenda. Mr. Smith, thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'd like to take just a second as well to say thank you to Erica. I want to thank you for your service to the Winchester community, your insight, your intelligence, your questions, your leadership, all of it. Will have a lasting impact on the city and the residents, and so just want you to know you're appreciated and loved. So thank you. So tonight I'm bringing back the capital improvement plan that I provided to the board last month. Just a couple of small slight changes to the document itself. We added the bus inventory as part of that data in the plan that represents some of the assets that we have. We updated the showing of how so folks can see where we would get the money to spend on each of the projects in there. We broke those down in the chart of expenses or budgets, and so that shows now where we would get the money from the city or whether we would get it from our carryover, which is still from the city, but explains how we use the carryover in a little better detail, as well as shows the city where we allows them to see things where we may have to plan in the future. So we kind of broke that out a little bit. I didn't receive any additional comments or questions, but we will take this, if you approve it tonight, we'll take it to City Council tomorrow night. Tomorrow night as a presentation to review it with them and allow them to ask questions as well. So, any questions about the document?
Any questions for Ed? Comments? Okay.
Could I make a?
Sure.
I see, Ed, here that the PA system, Corals, is getting an overhaul. That's awesome. That PA system is terrible.
It would be part of we hope it would be part of a larger renovation of that building.
And Mr. Wallace and I were at Daniel Morgan this past week, and I didn't realize, but in the gym, the PA system in there is equally as bad
at the intermediate, on the intermediate side?
It's the 7-8 gym. I can't even speak to the 5-6 gym, but the 7-8 gym, the gentleman, Mr. What's his name? Dorsey, thank you. When he's talking, he might as well not be talking because nobody can understand. I mean, you hear something coming from those speakers. Am I exaggerating? It's pretty bad.
I think if they had to make an announcement for safety reasons, it's not happening.
You'd be hard pressed to understand.
In the gymnasium?
Yeah.
It's really, really bad. And maybe you have somebody look at it because we don't know if it's a feedback issue or what, but it's horrible. And they're getting ready to start hosting championship games. I mean, that doesn't look good.
Yeah, so maybe just keep that on our radar.
Okay.
I just learned about it last week.
Okay. Yeah, sure will.
If I could just make one comment on page 17 where you start to see the capital improvement plan, the change that Ed was referring to is you'll notice the asterisks next to the items. That is new to this report, and The purpose of that is to show items that we believe will require either city capital money or city bonding versus carry forward. So we've broken that out. Historically, we've put that all together. This hopefully gives our partners in city council a roadmap of when they need to start thinking about larger ticket items, and also helps them to see the value of the carryover and what we plan to take care of ourselves. And just, according to this plan, when you adopt this, you're essentially adopting in that column for next school year a request of $700,000 to address the traffic flow issue at Frederick Douglass Elementary School, since that is in that plan. So that will be a capital request in addition to our operating request next school year through the budget process. So wanted to point that out.
Ma'am, I'll make a motion to approve the 2023-2027 capital improvement plan as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. D. Benedetto, a second by Dr. Pierce Gonzalez. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Motion passes. And lastly, on our action items for this evening, we have our school bus purchase. Mr. Smith.
Yes, so policy requires board approval of the expenditures over $100,000. Tonight I bring a quote for $138,400 for a new bus. This will conclude our purchases. As you know, we approved 4 buses probably about 6 months ago, and this will catch us up for the buses we didn't purchase during the pandemic. Again, not knowing where we were going to be financially and that kind of stuff, we put them off and held off on it. And so this allows us to continue and maintain that replacement schedule where we try to do 2 to 3 a year. And so we've had this quote expires on the 15th of the month. And so we're asking for approval at this meeting so we can get the current pricing that they provided us. We should receive the bus this summer. Okay. And it will be paid for out of carryover. Yep.
Mr. Smith, if we cut out the cup holder for the driver, does that save any money?
No, it just makes your bus driver angry because they don't have their coffee with them.
In all seriousness, though, in informal conversations, I've always heard the figure $100,000 for a new bus thrown around.
Not anymore.
Is this like the used car or the car market has also been, the markup is, and so that's what we're seing in this $138,000?
That's Virginia State contract. That's the best price you're going to get.
Really? Okay. Thank you.
I don't know. I mean, that contract pricing ends in December, so we'll see what they get for the next one.
Okay.
But yeah, 100,000 was generally our number, what we budgeted. Now it's in the 130 range.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Smith regarding the school bus purchase? All right, I will entertain a motion for this evening.
Motion to approve the purchase of a single gas-powered bus from Kingmore Supply Incorporated using state contract pricing and carryover funds in the amount of $138,400.
Thank you. We have a motion by Dr. Pierce Gonzalez.
Second.
Second by Mr. D. Benedetto. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you. That motion passes. And I think that does conclude our public portion of our business meeting this evening, and we do have need for closed session.
Pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia, motion that the board convene in closed session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters, including prospective candidates for employment and the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees, specifically substitute teacher and support staff roster, coaching stipends, and resignations.
Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Pierce Gonzalez, a second by Ms. Trubin. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you, everyone. We are now in closed session.